Imagine a person climbing a mountain without knowing why they climb. Each step feels heavy, each stone in their path unbearable, because the struggle has no meaning. Now imagine someone climbing with the knowledge that at the summit lies not only a breathtaking view, but also the fulfillment of a deeply cherished purpose. The same steep path, the same fatigue, yet the burden is transformed into determination. This is what discipline really is, not dragging yourself unwillingly, but being pulled forward by a vision so compelling that setbacks become lessons rather than defeats. The Stoics remind us that setbacks are inevitable. Life is not smooth terrain. You will stumble. You will miss the mark. You will falter. But to the disciplined mind, these are not reasons to stop. They are lessons, signals pointing the way toward refinement. Seneca once wrote that difficulty strengthens the mind as labor strengthens the body. To encounter a setback is not to fail at discipline, it is to practice it. The disciplined person knows that the test is not in never falling, but in rising with clarity each time they fall. Yet, how do we cultivate this way of living? How do we move from the old model of discipline as punishment to the Stoic model of discipline as alignment? The path is subtle, but it begins with knowing why you act. Without a clear sense of why, no discipline can survive. Ask yourself what compels you forward. If your reason is shallow, your effort will be fragile. If your reason is rooted in something deep, something that resonates with who you wish to become, then discipline no longer feels like restraint. It becomes devotion. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that he rose not for idleness or indulgence, but because he had a duty to fulfill as a human being. He anchored his actions in service to reason and to others. Without this anchor, he would drift. So too with us. When people hear the word discipline, they often imagine a kind of harsh self-punishment, a daily struggle of forcing oneself to act against resistance, dragging the body and mind through endless tasks. But discipline, in its truest sense, is not about chains or pressure. It is not about beating yourself into submission or waging war against your own will. Discipline, rightly understood, is a form of freedom. It is the art of aligning your actions with your highest values so that what you do flows naturally even when life is hard. The Stoics knew this well. For Marcus Aurelius, discipline was not a grim duty, but a harmony between reason and action. For Epictetus, it was not about rigid control, but about choosing to focus on what is within our power. And for Seneca, discipline was about living intentionally rather than drifting aimlessly. What all three understood was this: discipline is not about suffering through life, but creating conditions where virtuous action becomes almost effortless. This idea may sound strange in a world where discipline is often sold as sheer willpower. But think about it. If discipline were only about gritting your teeth, it would eventually collapse under exhaustion. No one can live an entire life pushing against themselves. True discipline is sustainable because it grows out of clarity, purpose, and vision. It becomes less about forcing yourself to move and more about being drawn forward by something greater.
Modern life often distracts us with countless trivial pursuits. We are tempted by convenience, by shortcuts, by pleasures that soothe us in the moment but leave us weaker over time. Discipline in such a world requires that we keep our why visible. This can mean writing it down, placing it before your eyes, reminding yourself daily of the purpose behind your actions. If you do not know the summit you are climbing toward, the path will feel endless. But when the goal is clear, the struggle sharpens into progress. Clarity of purpose is not enough by itself, however. To act consistently, we must remove the chaos of constant decision-making. The Stoics loved simplicity, and discipline thrives on it. Routines are often misunderstood as boring or restrictive, but in reality, they are liberating. When you no longer spend energy on whether or not to do something, you free yourself to simply do it. Decide once and let habit carry you forward. Treat your daily practices not as negotiable tasks, but as sacred appointments with yourself. In this way, discipline ceases to be a question each day and becomes a way of being. Still, even the most disciplined mind must guard against despair when effort feels heavy. Here, the Stoics offer a shift in perspective. Our thoughts shape our reality more than circumstances do. If we approach challenges with the belief that they are unbearable, they will become so. But if we meet them with the attitude that they are opportunities to grow, we transform their weight into strength. Instead of whispering, "I hope I can endure this," remind yourself, "I can endure this." Instead of sighing, "This is too hard for me," declare, "This is a challenge I will learn from." The Stoics taught that the mind is sovereign. It decides whether an obstacle is a curse or a gift.
Consider also how small victories shape our journey. The human brain is drawn to rewards, and progress often feels invisible when we only focus on distant horizons. Discipline is sustained not by waiting for grand triumphs, but by acknowledging the value of each step. Celebrate the moments when you overcome resistance, no matter how minor they seem. Pour yourself a cup of coffee after finishing a difficult task. Take a deep breath and savor the sense of completion, or smile simply at having kept your word to yourself. These acknowledgments may seem trivial, but they strengthen the bond between effort and fulfillment. Over time, your mind learns to crave this progress. Another tool the Stoics anticipated is visualization. They often practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining potential hardships in advance so they could meet them with composure. In a similar way, modern discipline can be strengthened by rehearsing success in the mind. Close your eyes and picture yourself performing the hard task with ease. Imagine the feeling of completing it, the pride that comes not from indulgence, but from mastery. This is not fantasy, it is mental training. Just as an athlete rehearses movements before stepping onto the field, the disciplined soul rehearses virtue in thought before enacting it in life. Yet, inevitably, there will be days when we fall short. Perhaps you skip a workout, surrender to distraction, or abandon a habit you promised to keep. The undisciplined mind responds to these lapses with guilt and self-condemnation, which often lead to quitting altogether. The disciplined mind, however, remembers the Stoic principle that perfection is not required, only persistence. Missing one step does not erase the path. When you stumble, do not quit, reset. Establish for yourself a simple rule. When you miss a task, you will return stronger in the next task. This transforms failure into fuel. Each lapse becomes a reminder not of your weakness, but of your capacity to recover. This, perhaps, is the greatest secret. Discipline is not about never faltering, but about never staying fallen. Life will not grant you unbroken consistency. Discipline is about building resilience, about circling back when you veer off course, about refusing to surrender your long-term vision to short-term setbacks. In this way, discipline is not a cage, but a compass. It does not confine you, it directs you. It allows you to walk through life not as a slave to impulse, but as a master of intention. The disciplined person is not rigid, but steady, not harsh, but purposeful. They are free because they are not ruled by passing moods or desires. They are guided by something higher.
The Stoics would tell us that discipline is not about denying ourselves joy, but about seeking the deeper joy that comes from self-respect, from living in harmony with our values. It is about choosing the pain of growth over the ease of stagnation, the challenge of virtue over the comfort of vice. And it is about recognizing that every day is an opportunity to begin again, to align ourselves anew with the path we have chosen. So when discipline feels impossible, remember this: it is not about force, it is about clarity. It is not about rigidity, it is about flow. It is not about punishment, it is about freedom. When your why is strong enough, your routines supportive, your mindset resilient, your victories celebrated, your vision rehearsed, and your setbacks reframed, discipline becomes less of a burden and more of a way of life. In the end, discipline is not hard. What is hard is living without it, adrift, aimless, and at the mercy of impulses. The Stoics knew that the disciplined life, though it requires effort, is the only life truly worth living. For in discipline, we find not only progress, but peace. Not only achievement, but alignment. Not only the strength to endure, but the wisdom to flourish.